Omni-Man versus Ghost Rider, one of the most powerful Viltrumite warriors who's ever lived, a world conqueror. It's going up against the living, breathing spirit of vengeance. Who's going to be the last one standing? Who's ultimately coming out on top here? Really, is it even going to be close? Let's get into it. Johnny Blaze was a world-famous motorcycle stuntman, but in order to save his father's life, he sold his soul to the devil. Of course, that never really works out too well. His soul was bonded with the demon Zarathos, the spirit of vengeance, transforming him into the supernatural anti-hero, the Ghost Rider. Now, becoming the spirit of vengeance, Ghost Rider got a whole bunch of supernatural powers. Not limited, just crazy superhuman strength and durability. He's strong enough to throw several tons with ease, knock around massive pieces of machinery, throw around cars, or pretty much anything else on that level. He's got easy multi-ton strength. On top of that, Blaze is a living, flaming skeleton. He's ridiculously hard to actually injure in a fight. He's completely and totally bulletproof. He can laugh off point-blank explosions. Ghost Rider's even been able to completely no-sell attack from Spider-Man or even the Avengers. Like I said, he's very, very hard to injure or put down. On top of that, you don't really want to see what happens when Ghost Rider is actually injured. Like World War Hulk was able to smash the Ghost Rider and he thought he'd won, only for this to allow Zarathos to completely take over the body and go all out in the fight. We'll get more to that later. Now, while Ghost Rider is pretty physically powerful, where he truly shines is with his supernatural and magical powers, like his Hellfire. This Hellfire is an absolutely devastating attack, because on one hand, well, it's just a massive amount of fire, enough to blow up a mountain. It's been able to injure Iron Man, hurt Dr. Doom, even hurt the Hulk. And Ghost Rider can do all sorts of stuff with this Hellfire too. Like can create weapons out of it, manipulate and control it with his mind, shoot it out from anywhere on his body, even cause it to rain Hellfire from up above. But as if that wasn't enough, the thing about Hellfire is that it's not just a physical attack, but also a spiritual attack too. It doesn't just hurt the body, but it attacks the soul. It literally will burn you from the outside and the inside and consume your spirit in its flames. So an absolutely devastating attack. But Ghost Rider's best ability is definitely his Penance Stare. It's kinda his signature attack and his most powerful. It allows Ghost Rider to look into your mind and soul, bombarding you with all the pain and suffering that you've caused others. And that's it. Simple as that. Some people think there are certain rules to how the stare works, like that the person has to have committed a sin or feel guilty for their actions, or even that Ghost Rider has to make direct eye contact. Well, nope, none of those are really true. Ghost Rider doesn't have to make eye contact. He can punish a whole city at once, and it has nothing to do with sin or guilt. Like here, Ghost Rider uses the Penance Stare on Blade, who at the time has the full power of the Darkhold. Yeah, that book from Doctor Strange, the little book that contains Chthon's powers, the Elder God who created dark magic in the universe. And just look at some of the descriptions used here. Blade's experience is no different from the countless others who have felt the pain they have inflicted. No different, but 100-fold more severe. Every cell in his body explodes with the pain that he has inflicted upon his recent victims. He relives their deaths 1,000 times in the span of a microsecond. The experience threatens to shatter his mind. This is how it works. No matter if you're a good person or not, if you're guilty of some sin or not, none of that matters. All that it needs to work is a soul if you've caused pain to others, whether for good or bad reasons. Like take Madcap, for example. Madcap is insane. So insane that he can drive other people insane with just a look. Madcap is also immune to feeling pain. Even with his neck snapped, he's just fine due to his Deadpool-like healing factor. So, in short, he can't feel pain, and he's too insane to feel guilt or sin. Ghost Rider's Penance Stare still does him in. The Penance Stare is also able to put in Wolverine, even though Ghost Rider admitted that a lot of the pain that Wolverine has caused to others was warranted and for good reason. Penance Stare still worked on him. Sure, sometimes the Penance Stare doesn't work, but that's usually because the person doesn't have a soul, or people that are specifically immune to it, or people that are actually empowered by pain and suffering. Other times it hasn't worked because a writer didn't understand how Ghost Rider's powers work, or just didn't want it to work in that specific story because the move is just too overpowered. We can kind of write those off. Basically, the Penance Stare doesn't care who you are, doesn't care how you feel about what you did, or even why you did what you did. It just cares about what you did. And so it inflicts all the pain that you've inflicted on others throughout your whole life. If it can work on a literal angel, then it can work on anyone. End of the day, Ghost Rider is one of the most powerful magical beings out there, to the point where he was able to defeat Mephisto and has become the king of hell before. He might have started out as just a flaming skull on a motorcycle, but he's more than a match for anyone who crosses his path. After all, he's the spirit of vengeance. Now, for this video, we're going to be kinda using a composite version of Omni-Man, taking the comics, what we've seen from the TV show, and mashing them into one. So all feats apply to figure out just how powerful Nolan is. Just not his feats from Mortal Kombat, of course. And because of that, spoilers ahead from the comics for what lies ahead for the TV show. Now, Omni-Man is a Viltrumite, and we're the largest and most powerful empire throughout the galaxy. And why are the Viltrumites so powerful? Well, it's because they have access to smart atoms, molecularly the same as normal atoms, but they give access to all sorts of powers on the atomic level. And Viltrumites are unique because they can use smart atoms for a whole lot of different powers: super strength, super speed, flight, and they're the only race in the universe to have smart atoms literally encoded inside their DNA. That's what makes them so powerful. And just how powerful are they? Well, with super strength, Nolan Grayson is one of the best. In his fight against Invincible, well, Omni-Man was punching Mark so hard that he was shaking entire mountains, and doing this repeatedly. In fact, Omni-Man was sending Mark flying all over the planet, causing earthquakes each time that he landed. That was against his own son. He was holding back there. Time and time again, he was able to punch through Immortal, ripping him in half, cutting his head off with his bare hand, or even with Thrag's kids. He was able to splatter several kids with each punch he threw. Both the Immortal and those half Viltrumites have some great durability feats. Nolan is still leagues above them. Then there's also the time where Omni-Man claimed they managed to stop an asteroid the size of Texas. Just think about that for a second. An asteroid the size of Texas. That's a planet-destroying extinction level event right there. That would be about 7 billion metric tons of meteor he had to stop, not even taking into account acceleration or anything like that. That lines up with what Nolan has done in the comics, where him, Mark, and Thaddeus teamed up to destroy the planet Viltrum, a planet that's roughly twice the size of Earth. Now, sure, that's two other Viltrumites helping him there, and Space Racer shot the planet with his gun in order to destabilize the core. But still, that's a multi-continental feat at least. Omni-Man is seriously powerful. In fact, Omni-Man is arguably one of the strongest Viltrumites you're ever gonna see. He's a trusted officer who was given the duty to conquer a planet all by himself. And true, old, accomplished Viltrumites like that are in a tier all their own. Like Conquest, we can casually bust out of solid 400-ton solid steel blocks encasing all around his body, as well as 6 miles of earth caving in on top of him. Omni-Man is still more powerful. In fact, the only Viltrumite we ever saw definitively prove he was stronger than Omni-Man was Thrag, and he did it pretty definitively. And that actually leads us into our next point, durability. And again, it's something that Viltrumites are great at. And Omni-Man is one of the best of all of them. He's been pretty much unaffected by any attacks from a mortal. He was unaffected by any of the attacks from Invincible during their first fight too. And in fact, Omni-Man has regularly been able to take attacks from all sorts of different Viltrumites and not really gone down or been all that injured. He's actually so tough that, like we said, even other Viltrumites legit just splatter against him on impact. He's taken massive nuclear lasers and survived it completely unscathed, even taking nukes at point blank range, not even being slowed down. Now, all this isn't to say that Omni-Man can't be damaged. He can, and he's taken some absolutely devastating attacks in the past. He's been beaten up by several Viltrumites as they double, triple teamed him. And in pretty much every fight that he's ever had with Thrag, well, he usually ends up nearly on the brink of death. The first fight, well, he ultimately got overpowered and was straight disemboweled when Thrag punched his hand through Omni-Man's body. Omni-Man still survived. Another fight, well, Thrag beat Omni-Man so bad that his eye straight up popped out of his skull. Still survived. He went against Thrag a third time too. It was nearly torn in half. Still managed to keep himself alive. So basically, Nolan has an incredibly impressive healing factor and can survive almost any injury. But two, well, it takes a whole heck of a lot to actually injure him or put him down. Just because Omni-Man can take nearly any attack or any injury and just refuses to go down or be killed. His durability is just simply off the charts. And pretty much any injury he does take, well, he can heal from it. The only way that Omni-Man can actually be completely put down is by damaging his heart enough where his heart can't help with the healing and repair. But everything outside of that, and I mean everything, Nolan is gonna survive it. Then even simply with speed, Omni-Man, like all other Viltrumites, has the ability to move well above the speed of light. He was able to slaughter all the Guardians of the Globe in just moments, despite having a super speedster of their own in Red Rush. In the comics, Omni-Man put down the Guardians even faster. They didn't even have the chance to react to his attacks. He's well faster than Invincible during their first fight. Invincible is legitimately moving in slow motion, and he's well faster than other Viltrumites too. Then even just simply flying around, Nolan is much faster than the speed of light. When he left Earth, he decided to travel to another planet with life, and that journey took him about a week. But not just any planet, but a planet in the Virgo supercluster. which is 65 million light years away from the Earth. He traveled that span in just about a week, making him massively faster than the speed of light. No questions asked. And all these powers, his strength, his speed, even his durability, is best put on display when Omni-Man decided to completely and utterly destroy the Flaxen Empire. And I do mean completely destroy it. He flew through a continent-sized city fast enough to where he was literally causing nuclear-level destruction as he flew around. Basically, how that works is that as he reached light speed, or even just under the speed of light, Nolan was hitting molecules and atoms in the air with so much speed and force that it's causing nuclear fusion, leveling continent-sized cities and sending the entire planet back to the Stone Age. He just kept 3 of them alive in order to send him back, and then killed them too. In short, whether it's in the show or the comics, Omni-Man has just been able to consistently prove that he's not only the most powerful being on Earth, but he's just regularly proven himself to be one of the most powerful Viltrumites as well. So, who wins? Well, let's break it down. Now, looking at this fight, there are really 2 things here that we need to consider. 1, Omni-Man holds a significant stat advantage over Ghost Rider. He's stronger, he's faster, and he's tougher. He was strong enough to help destroy the planet Viltrum alongside Mark and Thaddeus. He's ridiculously fast, able to fly massively faster than light, and inside the canon, well, all Viltrumites are able to react and fight at the same level as their flight speed. And of course, Nolan is a very hard man to put down in a fight. Just ask Thrag. Omni-Man is a difficult man to kill. Not to mention that he's one of the best warriors and fighters out there. Omni-Man is a master of all sorts of different Viltrumite fighting styles. He's got thousands of years of experience and has shown off the ability to fight and beat all sorts of different enemies with all sorts of different powers. Of course, the problem for Omni-Man in this fight is that he's not just fighting a physical opponent, he's fighting a magical and supernatural enemy, one that can't just be beat with physical force. Like, Nolan isn't just fighting against Johnny Blaze, stuntman with the power to shoot out flames from his face, but he's also battling against Zarathos, the Hell Lord Spirit of Vengeance. And Johnny and Zarathos' relationship usually goes like this. Johnny is constantly trying to restrain Zarathos, hold back his vengeance so that innocent people don't get hurt along the way. But then whenever Ghost Rider is knocked out, Zarathos is able to finally take over and becomes exponentially more powerful. And I 100% believe that Omni-Man can knock out Ghost Rider. If you're contributing even just 1/3 of the power to blow up a planet, you're strong enough to knock Ghost Rider out on his butt. And this is where it gets to be a serious problem for Omni-Man, because this means that Zarathos is taking over, becoming seriously more powerful. Like, I'm talking the kind of power to take on the Avengers all by yourself, the kind of power that makes Hulk and Thor look like afterthoughts. Zarathos at his best is on par with someone like Mephisto, a demon of hell. Mephisto is able to fight against Galactus. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that Zarathos is directly on par with Galactus, but I am saying that Zarathos should be comfortably tiers and tiers above Omni-Man. And the only way to beat him is with some serious magic, some special magical artifacts, the powers of heaven or hell, that sort of thing. None of which Omni-Man has. On top of that, Ghost Rider's Hellfire and Penance Stare should just be devastating attacks, especially against a Viltrumite like Omni-Man. See, Viltrumites get their powers and abilities because their body is entirely made up of smart atoms. Problem is, smart atoms aren't capable of withstanding high temperatures for extended periods of time. It breaks apart their bonds and causes the Viltrumite to begin to lose their strength and durability. Now, the most powerful of the Viltrumites are able to have prolonged fights in the sun, so it takes an insane amount of heat to cause this to happen. But considering that Ghost Rider's fire works on the physical and spiritual level, burning Omni-Man's soul as well, I think this is going to be a pretty effective attack. And then of course, there's the Penance Stare. With everything that Omni-Man has ever done, even if he's shown remorse since then, the Spirit of Vengeance shouldn't care. It wants its penance, and it's gonna get it. This is without a doubt capable of one-shotting Omni-Man if the attack works like it's supposed to. There's really nothing that Omni-Man can do about it, considering that he's got no way to block magical attacks, and even if he did, it's able to work on a magical being as powerful as Doctor Strange. Omni-Man is powerful, but when Ghost Rider is operating at his best, he just way outclasses him. With all the evil that Omni-Man has done, the last person he wants to run across is the Spirit of Vengeance. Ghost Rider wins.